with that wide receiver room getting a little full, there's one receiver in particular that everybody wants to talk about, and we'll talk about him right now. Welcome to Believers Talk. My name is Joe, and welcome as we break down the 2019 Buffalo Bills roster. We're going to talk about one guy in particular in this episode, a guy that a lot of you have commented about and wanted me to do a video on, so we're going to do that right now. We're talking about Duke Williams, formerly of the Canadian Football League. The Buffalo Bills signed Duke Williams January of 2019. He was one of the first signings that we had, of course, in this offseason when we have many off-season signings. So he is 6'2", 6'3", actually listed as 6'3" now, 225 pounds. So he's a little bit of a bigger receiver than some of the other receivers that we have, and people have said he has better hands than a Calvin Benjamin who we had on our team last season. So that'll be interesting to see. Now, my take on Duke Williams is a little bit different than a lot of people. And maybe that's why I haven't done a video on him, but we'll get to that at the end of the video. But right now, we're just breaking down Duke Williams. So Duke Williams was born in Los Angeles, California, went to high school at East St. John's High School in Reserve, Louisiana, and then he started at community college. As a junior in community college, he did so well at the wide receiver position that he was then pursued by Auburn, and then he went to play at Auburn over in the SEC, the Auburn Tigers. After 2016, he got into an incident, a brawl at a bar, and so because of this incident, he was released from the football team, went to the combine, did not put up great combine numbers. We're talking about 4.7 40 time, 4.7 240 time at the NFL combine, and then he gets signed to the Atlanta Falcons after he's an undrafted free agent in 2016. So this all happens in a short time span, so that really affects his draft stock. Obviously, first you talk about the brawl. We supposedly punched a few people, including security guards, and he also threw a drink at a woman at the bar as well. And then you talk about the combine. He doesn't do well at the combine, doesn't have a chance to show up at a pro day because Auburn released him from this football team after the brawl incident, so doesn't get to have a pro day where he can really maybe step up his game a little bit. So all you have is the combine numbers. They don't look the greatest. He goes as an undrafted free agent, where Atlanta then picks him up in 2016. They also signed him in 2016 in May to be on the team on the 90-man roster. So he's on the 90-man roster, but then in September, or right before the NFL football season starts, he gets cut when they cut down to make the 53. He does not get added to the practice squad, and then he goes over to the CFL. In the CFL with the Edmonton Eskimos, last season in 2017 was his first season. In 2017, he had 46 catches, 715 yards, and 4 touchdowns in 13 games. Then in this past season, 18 games played, he had 88 catches, leading the CFL in receptions, 1,579 yards, and 11 touchdowns. So obviously much improvement his second year around. So why is this Duke Williams? Why is this a good signing? Is it a good signing? A lot of people are saying this is the wild card, right? This is the guy we're not so sure about. You talk about those off-field issues again. In 2015, I'm sorry, I said 2016 before. In 2015, there was a brawl at a bar. He struck up to 4 people, including a security guard or 2. He also tossed a drink at a female patron at the bar. He was dismissed from the football team. And then also, like I said, had the poor combine, and that's when he went undrafted. Now, there are reports in Edmonton that he has cleaned up his act, and I'm positive that Coach Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane have done their homework, right? They know what this guy brings to the team. They know what kind of attitude he has. And so I'm sure they've done their homework. We know the kind of culture that Coach McDermott is trying to bring into the Buffalo Bills locker room, and he's done a good job so far. He wouldn't go out on a limb for a guy if he didn't think that he can be a part of that culture. So we do have to trust that he has matured as an individual and that we won't be seeing more off-field issues like we had here. However, it is something to remember, and that could be a lot of the reason why he went undrafted, in the 2016 NFL draft. So another thing during the NFL draft that the draft process that a lot of experts were talking about was his blocking. He actually got criticized a lot for his downfield blocking, not doing that great of a job. Now, if you watch highlights of Duke Williams, you do see a ridiculously good block on a defender, on a cornerback who's maybe talking trash to his team, to the Eskimos, and he just comes off the line and nails them. And even though it's a good block and he does lay the guy out pretty good, you do have to remember, and this affects the stats in my opinion too, in the CFL, you get a 10-yard, up to a 10-yard head start at the snap, right? So he's not like staying still like you are in the NFL. You can run up to the line of scrimmage, and when you're doing that and you lay a block on someone downfield, it's a little bit easier when you have the momentum behind you. So has he gotten better at blocking? Probably in time. When you play something, when you play position long enough, I'm positive you get better at every aspect for after a while, right? But is his blocking still suspect? We'll have to wait and see what he can do at the standstill position. And that holds true for stats too. Again, you look at his stats from last season, he led the CFL in receptions, 88 catches, 1,579 yards, and 11 touchdowns. And I'm not taking away from any of that. However, the CFL is completely different. First of all, you have 20 yards in the end zone instead of 10, right? A little more room to move around, right? And then you also have to consider you're starting 10 yards back, and guys, the refs in the CFL are not calling offsides when someone's just a little bit offsides when they get that running head start. No, you have to be a good yard to 2 yards offsides before they throw that flag. So you're talking about a 10, 11-yard head start for a standstill corner to cover you. Come on. It's easy, right? It's easy. I'm not saying that he didn't make some impressive catches. I'm not saying that he doesn't have some pretty good highlights. But we have to see what he can do at the standstill position before we just go, oh, this guy is going to be awesome at the next level. We're not sure about that. And so I know I hear Bills fans talking about how good Duke Williams is going to be. I don't know if I see him making the final roster. 53 guys, you're talking about 6 wide receivers, probably max, right? So let's look at the wide receiver room for a second and see what kind of chances he has to make it. So you look at the wide receiver room for the Buffalo Bills, and I'm gonna say that there's four guys that are definitely on my 6-man roster as far as the wide receiver goes. Let me know if you disagree, but you're talking about John Brown, you're talking about Cole Beasley, right? 2 wide receivers that we signed during the offseason. Then you talk about Zay Jones and you talk about Robert Foster. How can we not have Robert Foster on the team after the season he had last season? And then also Zay Jones, we're talking about this being his breakout year, his 3rd year in the league, and we know that Coach Sean McDermott isn't fond of just giving up on guys that he drafted, right? Look at what happened with Nathan Peterman. We know that Zay Jones will probably have a spot on this roster, okay? So that gives us 2 spots, possibly only 1. Remember another wide receiver that we signed this offseason, Andre Roberts, right? Andre Roberts is a special teams return expert. Like, that's what he's there to do. So we signed him. So you're talking about him and Sonoris Perry from Miami, who we also signed as a special teams guy. One of them we're probably going to keep, if not both of them. So if we keep John Roberts, that's our 5th wide receiver now that you're talking about. So now that leaves us 1 spot open, okay? And I'm not saying he can't win out here, but listen to the names on this list. Talking about Damari Scott, Cam Phillips, Isaiah McKenzie. Isaiah McKenzie came on strong for the Bills last season once we got him from the Denver Broncos. Raymond McLeod had a tough season, but he was a Sean McDermott draft pick as well. Victor Bolden as well. And now, of course, you got Duke Williams. So that's a pretty crammed wide receiver room. Can he beat out those other guys? Absolutely. The biggest name I see there of a possible 6th guy would be Isaiah McKenzie. However, that's 1 spot. That's 6 players, 1 spot. That's what we're looking at here with Duke Williams, and that's why I'm not so sure he's even going to make the 53-man roster. Again, I know a lot of Bills fans are excited about this guy. I know a lot of Bills fans call him the wild card. We'll see what happens. I could be wrong here. I would love to be wrong if he proves it. If he proves it on the field, and we know he's going to get a chance to do that in preseason. We know he's going to get a chance to do that in camp. So let's see what he has. All I'm saying is we have this excitement, right, for a guy from the CFL. How many wide receivers at the wide receiver position have come from the CFL to the NFL and been successful? Now, Chad Johnson, went from the NFL to the CFL, and we've seen a couple names do that, right? Where they don't want to retire quite yet, but they're not at that level anymore where they can play in the NFL. But they go down to the CFL and they perform pretty well. So we've seen that. But how many times have we seen a guy from the CFL, a wide receiver from the CFL, come up to the NFL and be productive in the NFL? I'll give you one example. One example I could find of a guy who, if Duke Williams can be like this guy, that's a good signing. That's a good sign, and that's a cheap signing too. But that's Joe Horn. Joe Horn comes from the CFL, goes to the NFL, plays for the New Orleans Saints, and has a pretty good NFL career. So if you're looking for an example of an NFL star who started in the CFL at the wide receiver position, came into the NFL, I would point you to Joe Horn. But the examples are few and far between, so I don't want you guys to get your hopes up too much, because again, the examples are few and far between of a guy coming from the CFL to the NFL and being productive. Also, a lot of rule changes between the CFL and the NFL. Now, the CFL might have like the second tier talent to the NFL, like that might be the next professional league down from the NFL. But still, there are a lot of differences, especially at that wide receiver position where you get a 10-yard head start, and the corners, for the most part, staying still, might be backing up a little bit before you start. But even if you're backing up, getting ready as a cornerback, that means that your out routes are a little bit easier as well. So I'm just holding reservation on this guy. That's all I'm saying. Now, in 2016, when he was undrafted free agent signed by the Atlanta Falcons, you also have to look at the guys that were wide receivers on the Atlanta Falcons that year, including one guy from the practice squad who actually started, I didn't write down his name unfortunately, but actually started, or no, I did, B.J. Daniels. B.J. Daniels was a 7th round draft pick in 2013 by the San Francisco 49ers. But here's the thing about B.J. Daniels, he wasn't even drafted as a wide receiver, he was drafted as a quarterback. He then switched to wide receiver in 2015. That means in the following year, 2016, you have a quarterback slash wide receiver beating out Duke Williams for a practice squad spot on a team. So I just don't see encouraging signs there. You're talking about B.J. Daniels. Last time you heard of him wasn't that long ago. It was for the Orlando Apollos of the AAF, where he went and played at the quarterback position again. So have things changed since 2016? Absolutely. Could the reason why B.J. Daniels beat him out on the practice squad because of those off-field issues? Sure. Did he perform well in the CFL for the Edmonton Eskimos? Absolutely. I'm not going to deny that. Can he go up and get it? Does he have good hands? Yes. Are those all things the Bills need? Yes. But can these other wide receivers on the depth chart provide that? Yes. So we'll see if there's a spot for Daniel Jones. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I'm not Daniel Jones, I'm talking about Duke Williams. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Is Duke Williams going to make the 53-man roster? If so, what other 5 wide receivers do you have making this team? Anything that I said here that you disagree with, again, leave a comment, like this video, hit that subscribe button, guys. Subscribe to this channel as we will continue to keep you up to date on all Buffalo sports content. Again, thank you for joining me on Believers Talk. I'll talk to you all soon. Until I do, go Bills.